Hey, Bishop asked me to share with you all a bit of a testimony, and I'll try not to take too long. Many of you all know about 3 weeks ago, I was dealing with a situation. I was over here doing some work here in the office, as I often do, one of the offices upstairs here. And a lot of times I'm sitting up here, just doing things, and Sister Rita will be over doing her exercise, and Brother Willoughby will walk by. Sometime Elder Reggie will come by as well, because he'll be doing some things here at the church during the week. But generally, I'm up here by myself doing what I do, and they'll drive off and leave because they know my car is here and they know that I do it all the time. And sometime even with the alarm, they'll just kind of leave it off until I get ready to leave. And this day I was up here and had stuff spread out all over the place, a bunch of books and papers, and my computer was on, and I was doing some work. Had my cell phone off to the side there next to me, because a lot of times I have to make phone calls when I'm in the middle of things because of stuff that I come across. And I had to print something down into the office downstairs. And for some reason, I printed it down there instead of printing it at the printer across the hall here. And when I went downstairs, the pastor was putting his jacket on. It was starting to sleet outside, a little bit like it is today. And I said, "Where you going?" He said, "Well, I got to go over take something to Keisha. She was sick, had the flu." And I said, "Well, you don't need to do that. Why don't you go back in the office and do some work? I can go over and do it." That wasn't my plan. I was planning to do some things here for the next 3 or 4 hours. But I came up here and put my jacket on and went out to the grocery store to take her some things. I got to the grocery store and my chest started hurting. It started feeling kind of funny, and I didn't know what it was. I just was, knew it was weird. And I'd heard people talk about, having chest pains and problems and all kinds of different things. Some of them say they feel a sharp pain shooting through their chest, and some people feel like an elephant was standing on their chest and all this kind of stuff. So none of that was happening. I just felt like it was two big dudes that was like pushing my chest in or something. And so I started to cough a little bit to try to relieve it a little bit, and it didn't get much better. So I got in the car and started going up Bluefield Avenue. I was still going over to take the stuff to her after I gotten the things out of the store. And it started getting worse. And so by then I started thinking, well, maybe it's heartburn, because I've had, feeling like that before. I pulled over into the convenience store right on the other side of the bridge, and I was going to go in and get some ginger ale. And before I could get to the refrigeration case, I started getting lightheaded. I broke out in a cold sweat, so I sat down on the floor in the middle of the convenience store. And there were two people in there. There was a guy, I just ran into him yesterday and thanked him, who was there, and a lady. And I was telling them, call over to the church office, because when I left, Willoughby and I think Rebecca and the pastor and maybe somebody else was still here. I said, call over there and let them know where I am. And she said, she looked at me and she said, well, she handed him the phone and said, you call, I'm calling the rescue squad. And so, and thank God she did, because by the time they got there, my hands had gone numb. Both of my hands, my fingers were numb, and they were cold, and I had no control over them. And so they came in, they put me in the back of the rescue squad. They gave me a nitroglycerin pill, and that calmed the hyperventilation and the sweating and all that kind of thing, and the lightheadedness. And they took me to the hospital, and I got up here in Bluefield Hospital. Funny thing, some of you all don't know, one of my lifelong friends is Sister Trina Fleshman, who's here on a regular basis. Trina and I have known each other since we were kids, growing up in the council. And so I told him to call her, because I was conscious and everything, and I said, call Trina and tell her to come up here, because I need somebody to argue with. And so she came up, and Sister Rebecca and Willoughby came up to the hospital, and the doctor comes in and he says, after they did some testing, he said, we need to get you to Charleston pretty quickly. He said, you're having a heart attack. And I was still feeling a little discomfort, but I was okay, generally speaking, by then. And make a long story short, they were going to helicopter me to Charleston. The weather was too bad, so they had to drive me to Charleston. And the doctor had told me before we left Bluefield, they said, we need to give you a blood thinner treatment so that it will allow the blood to flow a little bit. And they need to get you to Charleston within 2 hours because there could be some serious muscle damage to your heart if they don't deal with this right away. And so they took me to Charleston. I get in the back of the vehicle, and they gave me another pill, and my heart just started pounding real fast. And I said, whoa, what's going on here? Something's not feeling right. And I didn't know what was going on, and he told me, well, it'll subside. And so I guess by the time we got out of Bluefield, heading toward Green Valley, it had eased up a little bit. But I was texting my daughter and my nieces to let them know that I was, still conscious and I was okay and that I was going to Charleston. And all the way down there was a song that was just ringing in my head. And I know that man that probably in the back of that rescue squad thing thought I was crazy because I was singing all the way to Charleston. We get to Charleston, and they pull me into the emergency room. And within 5 minutes after they asked me a couple of questions, the doctor said, we're getting ready to call the cardiac unit and bring you upstairs. We need to get you into for a procedure. So they took me upstairs, got me prepped for surgery, and the doctor told me what he was going to do. And when he got inside my heart, he said, while I was laying there on the table, he said, it's a good thing they got you down here when they did. And I didn't know exactly what he was talking about because I couldn't see what they were doing. They had me blocked from the screen. And about 5 minutes later, he said, all this didn't just happen today. He said, you've been feeling pain for a while. You've just been ignoring. And I said, yeah, I said, but I didn't know what it was. So, I just kind of thought I would get through it. And he did the procedure. After it was over, he told me what he did. He said that he had to put 2 stents in because he found some severe blockage in my main artery and in another artery. He said that my main artery was 100% blocked. There was no blood going in at all. And the other artery was 75% blocked. And he cleared it out. And they put me in the hospital for a few days, and I began to recover. But he told my brother and his wife, who were waiting outside by then, a little more than he told me. He said that when he started working and he got into the artery, he found 2 additional blockages once he got started. And he showed them the film from the procedure. And you could see, when I finally saw it, that there was a very small area where there was blood flowing toward my heart, and it just stopped at a certain point. It was a little blip on the picture. And then he showed an after picture where the artery was running all the way through, and it was probably 5 or 6 times as long after he had cleared all that blockage out. Make a long story short, I stayed there for a couple days, and I've got to go back again for some more work in a couple of weeks. But I was talking to folks, and I was thinking, I got a little overly emotional every time I thought about it, because a couple of things. If I had not been where I was when this happened, that probably would have been curtains. I mean, if I had been driving along on the interstate on 460 or 77, like I do all the time by myself, and my fingers went numb, it'd have been over. I lost control of the car. It'd been over. If I had been sitting here in the office like I normally do all the time, that might not have turned out too well. The only 2 scenarios, because that's what I was planning to do. And my father said something to me about that, and I was thinking about it a little bit, but he said, if you had stayed up in that office like you normally do, we probably wouldn't have found you until the next morning. He said, you'd probably been there laying on that table when we came in here the next morning. And my first reaction was, nah, I had my cell phone right here. So if I had started feeling like that, I would have dialed 911 myself. But then when I thought back on it, when I was in that convenience store sitting on that floor, I had my cell phone in my hand. And I was trying to dial. And I couldn't dial. So the Lord knew how to move me from what I was planning to do. And get me out of this building. Not only get me out of here, but to put me in a place where there was someone else there who could call for me. And all of that trip, during all of that time, you know, you hear stories about, you know, when you're facing death and you know, what's going on in your mind. I wasn't scared to die. That wasn't what was going on in my mind. I wasn't afraid to die. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't want to die. But I didn't feel fear about dying. I was more worried about my daughter. I was more worried about the kids and all that kind of thing. And there were songs that were, you know, dear to me that I would have thought in a time like that would have come to my mind that I would have been singing on the way to Charleston. You know, I love blood songs. You all that come here on a regular basis know that I love blood songs. But There's a Fountain Filled with Blood that flows from Emmanuel's veins was not the song that came to my mind. It was not a blood song. And it wasn't a song of prayer. It was not a song like Jesus is the best thing that ever happened to me that came to my mind. A song of testimony or a song of prayer like, I need thee, oh, I need thee. Because in a time like that, you would think that maybe that would be the kind of sentiment that would be going through your mind. But the song that came to my mind during that time was just a song of worship. It was just a song of communion. It was an old Walter Hawkins song that I hardly ever hear anymore. And it was, King Jesus, I love you. You're a friend of mine. You supply my every need. My hungry soul you feed. I'm aware you are my source, from which all blessings flow. And with this thought in mind, I know just where to go. I know just where to go. And all the way between Bluefield and Charleston, those words just kept ringing in my head. King Jesus, I love you. You're a friend of mine. You supply my every need. My hungry soul you feed. Lord, I am aware you are my source, from which all blessings flow. And with this thought in mind, I know just where I know just where I know, Lord, just where to go. I know just just where to go, Lord. I know just where to go. I know just